Hey, all you product manufacturers out there, if you have a ton of SKUs and struggle with getting photos of products, let alone some professional, engaging photos that you can use for your content marketing and your storytelling, then we have a solution on today's show that you may want to take a listen to. This is also good for companies that have complex systems that they're selling that are big and bulky and difficult to bring to a trade show or on sales visits, or also embedded components where you want to show that product in motion or inside of a larger product or process so that you can show it in context. So for all of those scenarios, 3D content might be a good solution for you. So today we're going to be discussing what this content is, how hard or easy it is to create this type of content, how to measure whether or not it's successful, and what impact it can have on the buyer's journey. Let's do this.
Welcome to Content Marketing Engineered, your source for building trust and generating demand with technical content. Here is your host, Wendy Covey.
Hi, and welcome to Content Marketing Engineered. On each episode, I'll break down an industry trend, challenge, or best practice in reaching technical audiences. You'll meet colleagues, friends, and clients of mine who will stop by to share their stories. And I hope that you leave each episode feeling inspired and ready to take action. Before we jump in, I'd like to give a brief shout out to my agency, True Marketing. True is a full service agency located in beautiful Austin, Texas, serving highly technical companies. For more information, visit truemarketing.com. And now on with our podcast. Hey everyone, and welcome to another episode of Content Marketing Engineered. I'm joined today by Mark Warger. He's the managing director at Martech 3D. And if you may notice a slight accent there, he's coming to us from London. So hi Mark, welcome to the show.
Hi, yeah, nice to be here. Thanks for having me. Very nice weather in South London today. We're in a good place.
Oh, good. I wish I was there enjoying that. It's not too bad here in Austin, though. So we're having a beautiful day. We're getting ready for this big event we have in a few weeks, the Industrial Marketing Summit, and we're so pleased that Martech 3D is helping to support the event. So wanted to right off the bat just say thank you for that.
Yeah, we're delighted. I think it'll be our first time supporting the event, and we're really pleased. We're really pleased to be helping out and sponsoring and having a presence there.
Yeah, good. And this is a great audience for you because of what you do and how it can help industrial companies. So I can't wait to get into that. But before we do, for a little bit of context, I'd love for you to just share a little bit about your career journey and what led you to Martech 3D.
Yeah, sure. Well, I got my first taste of manufacturing, if you like, way back in 2009 when I ran or led on sales and marketing and product development for a small medical device startup. So we were manufacturing hardware and producing software. So that was my real first taste of how the manufacturing world works. Loved it, fell in love really from day one. We grew that. And as part of that, of course, we were going to loads and loads of trade shows, the standard way, right, of being able to market products and sell products within the kind of manufacturing and healthcare sector. But we had this huge problem where we wanted to be able to demonstrate fully our equipment, how it worked and what it did. But of course, that's notoriously difficult when you're at a trade show. So that was one challenge. And we noticed actually that a lot of the other companies that we were seeing at trade shows had exactly the same challenge. And at the time, you might have a monitor on the back of your stand playing some video that no one really stood and watched, or most companies probably back then were still using leaflets and paper. So spotted a gap for thinking, well, if we could provide something that's much more interactive rather than just a video or just literature, could that have an impact on the way that we market and sell products at trade shows? So from there, started my own company as an event tech company that sought out to provide touchscreens and interactive hardware along with software development services. And when I say started, I mean started with £1,000 on a credit card, real bootstrap company. But then over the years managed to grow that to one of the most respected event tech companies in the UK and Europe. And through that journey, we started working with a lot of manufacturers, as you can imagine. and really saw this problem of how on earth do you market really complex, very often very large products in a way that's really engaging and effective, because normal marketing doesn't always support those kind of products and those kind of activities. So we were building these experiences, and we were also a bunch of gamers. So we love gaming, and we thought, well, how can we use this amazing 3D technology, which in this consumer space and in the leisure space has such an impact and is so engaging? How can we use this same tech to help market and sell manufacturing products? We were doing it at first by building these very bespoke, very customized software experiences, but they took ages and cost a fortune, and there just wasn't a way of doing it easily. So that was really where the idea of Martech 3D came from, which was if we could build a platform that enables you to create this kind of 3D content much quicker, much more cost effectively, then that could really help our audience and our customers in manufacturing. So we set out sort of 5 years ago now to build that platform and launch Martech 3D 4 years ago. And that's the kind of short, semi-long version of how I got into it.
Well, in a way, the way you're describing it, you've democratized the idea of having these interactive demos in 3D by making it more approachable for smaller companies that don't have these massive budgets. So that's exciting to me for sure. Now, I have the shortcut of having been on your website, so I've seen some of your videos and I understand what it is, but could you just explain some of the types of content and experiences that are typically created with your platform?
Yeah, sure. Well, perhaps it's worth explaining how the platform has developed over time as well, because we built it very much in partnership with our manufacturing customers. So we started off with this kind of grandiose idea of being able to produce 3D demonstrations for complex products in a way that really elevated customer education, and also gives a bit of brand differentiation. So makes companies stand out their marketing products in a different way. But actually, although we had fantastic traction, great growth, and we worked with and work with a lot of manufacturers in that space, what we found over time was that around 80% of the manufacturers we were speaking to were saying, this technology is amazing, we love it, but we're not quite there yet. Actually, we just have such a headache getting a product image on our website, just getting a good product visual or a really simple 3D model that we can add content to send to customers or again use throughout marketing. So over the last year, we've actually incorporated that into our platform, because as 3D technologists, we were like, well, that's the really easy bit, being able to create a good product image or a 3D model. Well, we can democratize that instantly. So last year, we launched an additional product called Martech 3D Engine that enables manufacturers to do that at the click of a button. So rather than having that awful headache of, I need a product image, I need to go and bug my engineer who's going to look at me in a grumpy way and take ages to get me this kind of really dodgy engineering picture back, or work with an agency, or need 3D designers to be able to just produce simple things like product images. The first thing that our platform does is allow you to do that as a marketeer at scale in a few clicks on your browser. So that's the first thing, good product images. The second thing, interactive 3D models, the kind of thing you might see on Amazon for consumer world, where you can have feature hotspots, see inside the product. And then the third thing, out of the box, be able to see that product as a customer in your own environment using augmented reality. So if I want to see whether that product fits or where it goes into my workflow, I can do that instantly on my mobile phone or tablet. And then the fourth thing is 3D product animation. So that's really technical animation of how the product works. And those four things we categorize as everyday marketing. So that's the kind of thing that every single manufacturer that works with product should have by default. The next level is then things for what we call next level marketing. And that's going back to that original premise of 3D interactive experiences, which could be a virtual showroom to show your full product range when you don't have the products with you, or it could be a in-depth 3D product presentation that shows you how to use the product. the features and benefits and so on, or it could be training apps or a 3D configurator. So we really have these two classes of content that we create, the everyday stuff and then the more advanced next level marketing stuff.
Are people ready to adopt these virtual environments? And I ask this because I remember, I want to date myself here, but 20 years ago, maybe early on, whenever webinars came out, the early 2000s, right? People started doing these virtual trade shows where you could theoretically walk around and click on booths, but it seemed like the world wasn't ready for that. Tell me what's changed now versus then.
Yeah, I'm looking at the two sides of our product. The first everyday stuff, I think, is a no-brainer, right? So
Yeah.
that's just transforming how you produce product visuals, and every manufacturer needs it. So absolutely, people are ready for that, and we're seeing that kind of adoption skyrocket. The next stage, we really are seeing great adoption, but there's a few things like any good content. It has to come with a good content delivery plan. There is no point creating this amazing experience if you don't have the right channels by which to deliver it. So that's really key. The thing that's changed mainly is, of course, the technology. So whereas even 5 years ago, it was like really bad Minecraft style graphics and really
Yes.
difficult to use, and it was really a headache of, or you'd have to have a VR headset or whatever. If you, with the technology now, you've got photorealistic graphics, you've got years and years of experience, of user experience and how people interact with these kind of things. And when it's used properly and delivered in the right way, we see it be absolutely transformative, whether that's online, whether that's at trade shows, or even in sales meetings as well. So I think there's definitely a more of an appetite for it now. But the key thing, I think, is that it can't be gimmicky. If you're just doing a flashy thing for gimmicky, then forget it. A company might use it once and then probably not use it again. It has to be embedded into the way that you deliver content. So there's almost a commitment at that level that 3D is a brilliant way to be able to educate people on products. And I'm going to have that threaded throughout all of my marketing channels. If it's just a one-off piece, then it will do a job, but it's really not going to be here to stay.
Yeah, very good advice. So you mentioned sales and yeah, that sprung to mind as you were describing your time at the medical device company and how you'd go to shows and you had these big medical devices and they were hard to ship and they were expensive. And of course, the same goes for, you can't always take these demos into a sales visit, right? They're big and cumbersome and that just doesn't work. So I imagine this technology helps sales and gives them more ammunition to take into a customer and present. Can you tell me a little bit about that?
Well, exactly as you've said, really. I think it's really difficult as a salesperson to be able to demonstrate a product properly, even when you have it there, because most complex manufacturing products are being maybe put into a workflow or a process line, and they need the full kind of suite of products to be able to demonstrate it effectively. So even when you have the product, it's hard enough. But let's say you're working with, I don't know, 10-ton CMM machine. That's not something you can easily stick in the back of your boot when you're going to demonstrate. So being able to have a full demonstration in your pocket can be transformative for sales. And then you can also show things that you can't always show, even when you do have the product there. So do you want to show some of the internal workings? What makes the product super efficient in the inside that might just have a nice plastic coating on, but actually you've got all this technology and all these USPs happening, but you can't see them normally. So that can be really transformative. And then being able to link up the way that you would market the product using standard marketing channels, and then how salespeople can also adopt the same content so that you're not just wasting that content on one channel and you're using it across sales and marketing. I think that's where the key benefit is. And probably the number one thing we see is increased customer education and therefore a shorter sales cycle, because you're not having to say in the first visit, come to us, come for a visit. That visit to your physical site then happens much further down the sales funnel towards the end, and it becomes a closing meeting, not a exploratory, I'm doing this with 6 companies meeting. So it just saves so much time and speeds that sales cycle up.
Fantastic. Okay, so we've talked about systems being a good fit for this, large systems, small systems, and then it sounds like you're also describing products that are embedded into an application where you can show it within context. We haven't really touched on software. Is there a software play here, or is this more oriented towards hardware and systems?
I think in terms of product visualization and 3D models, I think that's definitely in the hardware space. You're looking at products that you need pictures of or visuals of. When it comes to the more advanced 3D experiences, usually these complex products do have a software element. And so what you can do within 3D is, of course, have some kind of software simulation. So basically, as well as seeing the product work, you can also then simulate how that interacts with software. And that can be used not only in marketing and sales, but then that starts to become how can you use that for training as well?
Oh, yeah, of course. Okay, so maybe some people are listening and they're like, okay, this sounds really cool, but it sounds like it's going to take me a lot of time and a lot of money. So I know you mentioned that the first stage, the just showing products, nice pictures of products in 3D is the easier one. So starting there, what's the process? How hard is it to create something? Maybe you can give me an example of a certain type of product.
Yeah, let's say you've got let's take a process line. Okay, so we work with a lot of pharmaceutical manufacturers. And let's say you've got a process line in pharmaceutical manufacturing that you need to be able to visualize. Now, the old way was get a CAD file, maybe from engineering, ask them to mock something up out of Autodesk or something, and it would usually look pretty terrible. Or you have to farm that to an agency, or maybe if you're lucky, you've got a 3D in-house designer. But either way, it's taking ages. With us, the first thing that happens is those 3D files, the CAD files, come into our platform. And by the way, if people don't have them, we can still create those files in the first instance as well. Once they're in, our platform optimizes and basically, without getting too technical, colors them in and makes them marketing ready pretty much instantly. We do a quick human check, and then they're ready to go. So realistically, from getting a CAD model to be able to then create really photorealistic images and have 3D models and augmented reality, that process is usually a 24-hour or 48-hour process. We've got one company who work in components and they have 10,000 products. And we were able to get 10,000 products up there within 3 weeks, creating multiple product images and 3D models, when the workflow for that kind of thing would usually have been 3 months. And it's literally, clicks of a mouse. It's that easy.
Yeah. So you mentioned CAD drawings. And so I was, and I will confess, as I was preparing for this interview, I went on to, my friend ChatGPT. I had a little conversation. I said, what's the difference between a 3D CAD model and then what you're doing? And so the answer back, so I want to validate this, was the 3D CAD model is very engineering specific. It has specs, it has measurements, it has all these details. Whereas what you're doing is more for marketing and visualization. But what I'm hearing from you, if the basis is the 3D CAD model, do you still have all of that technical information bundled up in what I'm serving through your platform?
So the way that it works in our platform, you're exactly right, by the way. So your CAD model is this engineering file, really ugly, but has all the technical data. But what we want in marketing is something that looks amazing. We don't really care about all that technical data. We don't want it. So what our platform does is strips out all the stuff that you don't need to know and don't need to see. Because once you've got that, then you're able to use that final model in lots of different ways. You can use it as part of a 3D experience, but you can also create really fast images out of it. So that's the difference between having a CAD-based surface model, technically as we call it, between having a marketing-ready 3D model.
Yeah, thank you for distinguishing the two. And so I could see where they live alongside each other, but for different purposes, right? We use the beautiful one to for storytelling, right? To capture people's attention, show the product in context, all the things you talked about. But then we could still offer that 3D CAD model and perhaps behind a form if the engineer needs those specifications.
Exactly. So we work with one major panel supplier, for example, who have 3D models to visualize products and be able to select the right type of product for the right type of building. And then
Mhm.
behind a gated wall, the architect in this instance can download all of the CAD data and more technical things they need. But the biggest mistake that often people make, marketeers make as well, is thinking that a 3D CAD model will also work for marketing because that's what engineers tell us. But that's wrong. Basically, the CAD model won't do the job unless you optimize it and get it right and ready for marketing.
Yeah, yeah, it's certainly further down the funnel. It's desired content by engineers for sure, but I to your point, we have to get them interested. We have to get up to that table, right? We need to be further in the consideration cycle before they're ready for that. Yeah,
Yeah, absolutely.
okay.
It's definitely an end of funnel type of content that you need at that stage. But in terms of being able to add that wow factor, consistent visuals, yeah, that's not going to cut it.
Okay. So, how do you measure the success of this? So, let's talk about that company that had the 10,000 SKUs. I think you said it was a components company. How do they measure whether or not this was a good investment?
So there's two sides to it. The first side, the everyday marketing, that is a really basic ROI calculation. So that is, has it saved me time? Has it saved me cost? And is the output or the capacity greater? That's standard, almost lean manufacturing type metrics. Really straightforward. And if it has, and it did in this instance, then that's definitely a worthwhile investment. The next level is around the 3D experiences, and that requires almost a different type of measurement because we're talking about more aspirational marketing at that point. So, what we're looking at there is, did this experience influence the buyer in their buying journey? And that's the major metric we look for, and there's different ways of measuring it. Ultimately, if it did, then we should also see a shorter sales cycle. You should see better conversion. You should see brand differentiation, and that should ultimately lead to market share because someone is choosing your product and company over another's who doesn't appear to be as professional or look as good. And ultimately, of course, more sales. I mean, that's what it's looking for. But as we know in marketing, attribution in B2B marketing is not the easiest thing in the world. It's a
No, it's elusive for sure.
yeah, and it's a multi-touch journey that people go on. So it's important to instead try and measure the influence of these kind of tools rather than make it as simple as yeah, someone just saw this and then they bought this £1 million piece of machinery. The
Right.
world
If
doesn't work.
only it was that easy.
Exactly.
Well, if small companies are listening that don't have many SKUs that find this interesting, I mean, is there a price point for small manufacturers to work with you?
So you're right. I think the biggest value is probably when there's multiple products. So
Mhm.
we're really looking at companies probably with 50 products or more. But that's not to
Okay.
say that we don't work with some customers who've got, three hero products, particularly if they're early stage, pre-prototype type companies that are using the tool as well. In terms of a price point, you're looking at $1,500 per month as an entry point. So if you compare that to having even just a really good piece of hardware, like a good PC for creating 3D images, and the software that's required to render them, it's not far off. It's comparable even at that level. And that's before you're considering using an agency or the internal salary. So it is definitely affordable for the smaller manufacturers, but our sweet spot is those slightly larger, medium to enterprise level manufacturers with maybe 50 to 5,000 products.
And then system level products as well, it sounds like are a good fit where we talked about at the beginning, where you have large products, difficult to take in to a trade show or a visit. Seems like you have volume or complexity that are a fit, if I'm not
Exactly right.
mistaken.
Yeah, that's exactly
Okay.
right. So you could have one really complex product, and then that part of our solution fits perfectly. Or you might have 5,000 valves, mini valves that need visualizing for your website. And that's difficult to do, but the complexity isn't quite there.
Well, do you have any other advice for marketers that are either considering this or using CAD drawings today, or just in general trying to create a better online experience for their technical buyers?
I think there's two sides to it. I think realizing that in manufacturing, we have to up our B2B marketing game. The stuff is happening in consumer world, and more our customers and our audience are expecting the same experience they get from a consumer point of view in B2B marketing. So it's just not good enough anymore to say, oh, it's okay, we're in manufacturing, it's okay, we're in B2B. It's just not going to cut it when competitors are out there doing more. That's the first thing. The second thing that always amazes me, where I've been head of product for a small company and looking at lean manufacturing and how every process on the shop floor in manufacturing is optimized for high throughput and output, minimal cost and greater capacity. And yet our marketing processes so rarely follow that. And I find this quite shocking. And so I would really advise other marketers in the space to look carefully at your processes. In this case, what we're talking about is product visualization. How do you create product visuals? If that process wouldn't cut it on the shop floor, then it shouldn't cut it in the marketing department either. And that can save money, save on that difficult frustration when you think, I got into marketing to make an impact. I didn't get into marketing to have to batter down the door of my engineer just to get a product image. So that would be my second thing. Look at internal processes. Do they match the efficiency of which you get on the shop floor? And basically raise the marketing game when it comes to online content, when it comes to trade show content as well.
Mark, I absolutely love that advice. And it reminds me of companies that True Marketing works with, where they're so technologically forward when it comes to their products, their engineering, but then they'll still be managing leads, on a spreadsheet. There's no supporting technology for marketing to do their job efficiently, to get better insights. So whether it's on the CRM or the marketing automation side, or it's doing this with product images, yeah, companies. So I like how you connect to, if the company is investing in this and cares about this, that needs to be impactful for marketing too, right? Marketing needs to follow that same operational philosophy. So very good. Well, Mark, where can people go to connect with you and learn more about Martech 3D?
So obviously our website, martech3d.com. LinkedIn's always a good place as well. We're on LinkedIn. We're quite active. And then, of course, with our presence at the Industrial Marketing Summit, as well as some other industrial shows as well. So we're here. We're easy to get a hold of. You can call us up or pop us an email or visit our website, and you'll be able to speak to us directly.
Excellent. Well, I'll include links to both of those in our show notes. And Mark, thank you for joining me today. I appreciate it.
You too, Wendy. Thank you.
Thanks for joining me today on Content Marketing Engineered. For show notes, including links to resources, visit truemarketing.com/podcast. While there, you can subscribe to our blog and our newsletter and order a copy of my book, Content Marketing Engineered. Also, I would love your reviews on this podcast. So please, when you get a chance, subscribe and leave me your review on your favorite podcast subscription platform. Thanks and have a great day.